Hey folks, this is James T coming at you from a top secret location here in Texas. Today we're going to talk about going over and field stripping and cleaning this Yugo M70. This is the model AB. Don't know what that stands for, but I do know what it means. It means that it is the underfolder model. Okay, there it is. Others would have a fixed stock, different types, whatever the case is. Okay, so here we go. Just talk about this gun for a second here a little bit. It is a Yugoslavian gun. This one was imported by Century. It's a little on the old side. I'm not entirely sure the date. If anybody can help me out with dating this, I would love to figure that out. Let's see here. Not much different as far as this gun is concerned with any other AK. It does have the folding stock. It's got all the Yugos have a grenade launcher sight on them as well. Nothing too serious. You're never going to have a grenade launcher anyway, but very typical. This one has had the muzzle brake swapped out. That is not the standard 45-degree canted sight that comes with, I mean not sight, muzzle brake that comes with you know, your average AK-47. This one, I mean, those sights are really made for automatic fire, and this is never going to be any better than semi-auto, so this one spreads it out pretty nicely. Let's see here. This one does have points installed on it for a sling, right here and right here on the arm as well. Well, the pivot point anyway. Let's go ahead and get this baby apart, and I'll show you how to take it apart and clean it and do all that good stuff. For the sake of this video, if I can keep this closed, I'm going to. Okay, now, a little bit different with this gun than most AKs. This one actually has a little pin here, or a press or release switch or something. You don't know what you call it. You want to push that in, move the spring forward, and then this just comes right off nice and easy. It's very easy to do versus your average AK, and I can show you the differences. There's no forcing it with this one. But here's your spring. Very typical of any normal AK-47. Just a normal spring. Sorry if I don't have this queued up right, but it'll be close. Here's your bolt carrier. You want to pull that down. Well, and of course, we've already checked for safety before we did this, but you want to pull that down. And I just got back from the range, so nice and filthy, as you can see. That I shoot steel stuff from Russia, so it's going to be really dirty. Okay, and that's basically field stripped. I go a little bit further than most. I like to make sure that my gas tube is also clean, so I like to remove that as well, and I'll clean that first. Now, the wet rifle's still a little hot. I actually had a little girl get close to it at the range. Who brings little girls to a range, right? But it's still pretty hot, so it's not that bad, but it'll be good to go. Okay, so as far as these are concerned, the gas tubes, I don't go too crazy with this unless I'm shooting corrosive ammo, because really it's not going to affect the function very much. I use just some patches here, and you know, sometimes I'll hit it with the brush too, but it just depends. I mean, I'm kind of crazy with this. I don't have a little cup or a little thing. I just like to just pour it on there. I got this big old jug of hops here. It makes a mess, I know, but we do that around here. And I just kind of swab it out, you know. And as you can see, this is going to come out filthy already. I've barely even touched it. And it is nasty. Look at that. So, we're going to run a few of these through just to make sure our gas tube's in good shape. And then we'll get to the gun itself. Well, the rest of the gun, I guess you could say. Like I said, I'm not really too cautious with this stuff. I like it to be really wet anyway, so. And I just get in there and kind of work the edges. Now, if I were shooting corrosive ammo, I would take this a lot further than I'm doing it right now. This ammo is not corrosive, so I'm not worried about it. But for instance, I had a PSL, and I shoot nothing but I shot nothing but Bulgarian silver tip surplus out of that gun, and that particular ammo is very, very corrosive. So I made sure to hit it with, see that gas tube's got a pretty thick diameter there, so I used a brush that I would use for a 20 gauge shotgun to clean it out, and that's that. But I'm not going to go too crazy here. I'm going to hit it with one more wet patch and then one more dry patch, and just get the, you know, I guess the obvious or the overwhelming amount of stuff out right away. So kind of like to, and the patch isn't coming out as bad. So I mean, it's not as bad. So I'm not going to go too crazy with this here. Some people might fight me about this, but like I said, this isn't really key to the function of the rifle. There has to be room for the piston to move through. But I mean, here's your piston, here's your hole. I mean, you'd have to have a lot of gunk in there to make it not work, you know. Okay, so one pass with a dry patch as well, just for good measure. Probably don't even need to do that, but you know how we do it around here. Just to dry it off. Okay, and that's not filthy, but it's not wet either. Okay, the next thing would be the bolt carrier. I clean these pretty simply. I just use a regular. Oh, that is coming undone. I just use a regular standard patch here. Get it kind of wet. Nothing too crazy. And I just hit it like you would basically anything else. Just give it a quick clean. That stuff comes off really fast as long as you clean it right away. It can be pretty tough to get into the grooves here. But nothing too crazy. So I just stretch some of my patches out a little bit. Use one of them, already used ones here. Try to be conservative. These don't get amazingly clean. If you've used your gun a lot, they kind of get stained. But you can get a lot of it out, so we're going to take a little bit of time with that. Using our hands, getting dirty. There you go. That's about as far as I go with that as well. Okay. We've got the rest of the bolt carrier here. We're going to treat it the same way. This one won't be as dirty as the piston, so we'll just clean that off. No big deal. Well, everything that you do with a wet patch, I always follow it up with a dry patch, and that's because you never know what you left on there. Sometimes you can see right through this shit, so. But I'm just cleaning here, taking my time. See, it gets all over your hands nicely. I'm kind of slobby when I do anything, not just cleaning guns. My whole life I kind of live it kind of messy. So I'm going to hit this with the dry patch. Some people don't like to waste their patches doing the dry sweep. I stay pretty conservative with them as well. But sometimes I'll use paper towels just for the dry run here in the end. But there you go. So this is all stainless, so it comes off pretty easy. And I don't look for like a mirrored finish here, so you know, we're good. And not to mention it's an AK. So. Okay, so I like to make a habit of putting my clean pieces on the other side. Okay, then we've got the bolt. Now, you do want to clean this one off pretty good, and usually I'll use a little toothbrush, but I didn't shoot that much, so I think I should be able to get it with the patches here. You want to clean the bolt really well because there's a little spring underneath the extractor, and the more gunk that gets in there, I mean, I've never really had an issue with an extractor being filled up with gunk, but I imagine, I don't know, it's just kind of my thought that you should keep this portion of the gun pretty clean. I've heard of firing pins getting messed up because there's too much gunk in there. So, and by the way, if you didn't know, that little circle right there, that little guy in the middle, the nipple, I guess you could say, that's your firing pin. When the hammer hits it, it comes up and then it comes back. Firing pin, and the hammer hits it back here. Okay, and that cleaned up pretty quick, so let's just squeeze the extractor a little bit, get in there, get that nice and clean, and like I do, we hit it with a dry patch. And then relatively clean. Okay, so what I do with this so I don't lose it is I just put it right back into the carrier. All the way forward. Oh, wrong way. All the way forward. Just as though I was going to put it right back in the gun. Missed the spot here a little bit. Okay, there we go. So those parts are done. Spring doesn't need a whole lot of maintenance. What I'll do is I'll just take a patch. Once again, get it wet. Maybe 2 patches if it takes a lot. I'll just kind of hit it like that. And just to get whatever might be on there off of there. I don't think, I mean, even if you had to replace one of these springs, they're cheap. So the maintenance isn't all that important on this here. But just to get whatever you can off of it. And then more importantly with the spring, maybe a little lubricant. Maybe a little bit to keep it nice and fresh. But not much gets on there anyway, so we'll consider that done. Okay, now, got the dust cover. I always do the small parts first and then go to the barrel and the gun. Dust cover, same thing. Nice and easy. I like to clean the dust cover off a little bit just because I'm meticulous about it. Most people don't clean this part too much, but I get in there and get it out. Just for the fun of it. Now this number 9 stuff that I use, I mean, it comes with just about any, like if you buy a store-bought cleaning kit for guns, you're going to get some, is it hops, is it hopes, is it hopies, is it what, I don't know, I call it hops. But just about any gun store you go to, and you get like a pre-made gun case, a gun cleaning kit, or a pre-assembled gun cleaning kit, once you get hit with the dry patch again to dry it off, it's going to have this particular cleaning solvent in there, and I really like it. I've never used anything else. A lot of people will say, oh, CLP and all that kind of stuff, but I find it's expensive, and I find that I get my guns just as clean as I need to with the hops. And then I use the hops oil as well for lubricating. So I'll show you that here in a little bit with points at which I'll lubricate this gun. Okay, so now we got a nice hefty pile of scrap there. Okay, the gun itself. What needs to be cleaned on this here? Well, we're bare bones at the moment. The receiver doesn't need too much attention. It will never get too dirty. I mean, you could literally fire 50,000 rounds to this thing and it will never get too dirty. But I will clean it out a little bit. Most importantly is the barrel. We want to clean the barrel. And then the rest of the gun, you know, is basically all cosmetic after that. So I'm going to get to the barrel and I'll show you guys how I do this. The first thing that I like to do is I like to grab my brush here. And this is a brush that came out of a SKS kit, I believe. And, well, I like to give it one quick pass through, just one, not just one, but a couple of quick passes back and forth, just to break whatever is up in there. Okay, and we'll go back to that. But in the meantime, we are going to start patching here. I might have to grab some more patches from the garage here. I would usually be doing this work in the garage, but the lighting in there sucks, so I can't make a video. So, wet up this patch a little bit, and we will run it through the gun, back and forth. You want to make full swoops. You don't really want to stop in between the barrel, especially with your brushes, because you can mess up the rifling with a strong brush. I'm using a nylon type brush with some metal in the middle, but it's not going to do any damage, so that's why I like to use that one. Some of those really coarse brushes you can get can do a little damage to the barrel. So now, mind you, this is a steel barrel. It's not a chrome line barrel like your average AK is now. I think the reason they went to chrome line barrels was because of the corrosive ammo that these countries used to shoot with the corrosively primed ammo. Both AKs that I have this AK, the M70, and I also have an IO AK, one of the newer versions, and I really love that gun. A lot of people talk shit about IO, but their new AKs are great. Don't let it fool you. Don't let the reason IO kind of sucked in the past was because they tried to push them out before the assault weapons ban and had no quality control and just pushed them out. This is the Clinton era assault weapons ban. The ones they put up now are significantly better. So anyway, yeah, just wiping the barrel out here. Liberally using the patches provided. The other good thing about the steel barrel is it's a lot easier, in my opinion anyway, to get clean. It's not all that dirty. The gas tube in this rifle was much more dirty. I actually just got this rifle, so I don't know how the person before me treated the gas rifle. I mean the gas tube, but it was way more dirty than this barrel is. I was shooting some relatively clean ammo out here. That's what I've pulled out so far, but we're going to keep going because you never know what's in that barrel, even with a few good swoops first. Get back to the brush again. And that's how I do it. I just alternate from the brush to the pad, from the brush to the pad, and all the way out now. There you go. Bend it a little, bend it on back. There we go. Be careful with these things, they'll poke you. Let's see. Back to the patch. And once again, I'm not sure if this is queued up perfectly, but I'm sorry if it's not. This one should come out relatively clean. Let's see. And like I said, most people will have like a little cup or something they'll dip the shit in. Or just a smaller bottle than this, but I like the big bottle because I go through it quite a bit and I spill it everywhere, so. Cleaning the barrel. And with this, sometimes I like to stop and go individually here, just kind of make sure every piece gets scrubbed pretty good, because those long strokes, I mean, with the brush you got to worry about them, but with the pad, not really. Those long strokes can be misleading as to what you've got and what you have, and if there's an accumulation somewhere in the barrel. So, yeah, that one came out a lot cleaner, but I think we're going to go one more time just because, for not safety sake, but just because whatever, so. Now, if you haven't noticed, my hands have gotten pretty dirty throughout this process. A lot of people wear gloves when they clean their weapons. I personally do not, because I don't give a shit. And we're running the patches, the brush again. Not sure if it's queued up really well, but like I said, you want to make sure the brush goes all the way in and all the way out, all the way in and all the way out. So there we go. We run that a few more times. A lot of people will run it more times than that. I find any more than 10 or so swipes is overkill. But I've seen people do 40, 50 swipes on their videos, so I don't know, maybe it's just me. But then again, I don't really mess with high precision weapons. I'm more of a run and gun kind of guy, if you will. I like to, if it hits the target, that's good enough for me. It doesn't have to be right in the middle. So maybe some of those guns have to be cleaned significantly more than a gun like this, but that's what I'll do. And let's see. Yeah, we're coming out pretty clean now. Okay. And then, let's see. Now we've got the receiver. Like I said, the receiver, you don't need to pay a lot of attention to that. So what I'll usually do is just get a patch and just kind of hit it with my hands. Nothing amazing. Just get in there and get some of that out. I mean, it's not that dirty as is. Okay. Especially the rails, if anything. The rails in there are more important. Hit the springs. I mean, that trigger's not going to stop working for nobody, so. Alright, so that's enough for me. Now, what I like to do, and I know this is kind of strange, but I have an old Hops silicone cloth. Now, these are the cloths that come impregnated with silicone, and what they do is they, kind of preserve the finish on some of these guns. But this has been used so many times that it's more of a cleaning cloth now. It's got no more silicone on it, and I just love this thing because it really does make everything come out looking good. So I'll do all the parts with this really quick. We'll do a rundown, and then once that's done, we'll put the gun back together, and then we'll oil it up. But we might do a little bit of oiling before we put the gun back together. Okay. Gas tube. The reason the AK destroys the AR. Some of you get mad at me for that. Gas tube. Spring. One more time. Real quick. Okay, we got everything? Yeah, alright. So, pop that back up. The way this goes, you always gotta do the gas tube first because you're gonna have stuff running through here once you put it back together. So, put the gas tube on there. Swing that into position. Pull it back down. That's a little switch you use to get the gas tube off. If you don't know that already, you should. Oops. Okay. Close that grenade launcher. Then, here's the tricky part. See how this is lined up? See how that goes down there? You want to make sure this bolt is all the way to the front, lined up snug and tight. But before I do that, actually, I'm going to put a little bit of lubricant on here. Hops, number 9, lube. I like to get a little bit on the rails, and all you need is a drop, let it seep down itself, or run down the rail on its own, and then maybe a little bit up here. Like I'm talking about a thin, tiny little bit. And that's it. There's actually no reason to put it up there. It's just the handle here that I like to keep protected. So once you get to this point, you want to drop it in here, and then yeah, the carrier slides on this rail. So you can see, and that's what happens when you mess with it about the spring. I'm sorry, I did it again. Make sure the bolt's all the way forward. Very important. Okay, and then spring it back in. Now it's interesting. You see the spring right here? When you put it back on, it doesn't go all the way back to the back of the AK. Why is that? Well, the people in Yugoslavia or Serbia or whatever the hell they were, they found out that this is a pain in the ass to put back in sometimes. So with this gun, they installed that little pin there. So all you gotta do is just sit it on and push the pin. Oh. Leave it to me to fuck that up, right? Oh, shit, I'm sorry. I don't have a good angle on it here. Alright, so the thing's in there. Alright? Okay. Yeah, so you just set it on there as a normal piece of wood, and then you push the little button, and it comes right back on. There we go. So, now we've got a gun that is a little well lubricated, and it's got some issues here, but as you can see, I mean, not much effort at all to get this bolt back. I could probably do it with a little pinky. Yeah, and my hands are slippery. Yeah, just a little pinky there. And then, I like to wipe down any excess that we might have. And there we go. She's nice and clean. Oh, not yet. We got a little more excess over here. Get that off. I'm telling you, these cloths that have silicone on them, once you get one overused, don't throw it away, man. They're the best. Okay, so there it is. Yugo M70 AB underfolder model, and that is the video for the day, folks.